Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Supply Chaney podcast. I am your host, Nathan Chaney, and today we are talking with Kara Brown, or you may see her as Kara Smith Brown on LinkedIn and other socials. She is the co-founder and CEO of Lead Coverage, and otherwise the lady that's going all around America telling everyone how to be better at their marketing when it comes to logistics and supply chain companies. So Kara, without further ado, I'm going to hand the digital microphone over to you for a second. Can you introduce yourself in a little more detail?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm Kara Brown. Like you said, I run Lead Coverage. We are the largest go-to-market consultancy that specializes in supply chain. So we are hyper specific to the physical movement of goods, the tech that moves the goods, and the money that moves the goods. So only in freight. We've got about 50 people on the team. We are also sort of the experts in all things go to market and intent data. And we wrote the book on it. So I'm an Amazon bestseller. We wrote the book, The Revenue Engine. And then we took the book and we turned it into a workbook. Hey, there she is. We turned it into a workbook and we're taking the workbook on tour. So we've got 9 stops in America, and then we'll probably throw in the UK at some point there too. We've opened an office in the UK, and we're sort of going around the country, really trying hard to elevate the go-to-market strategies and tactics that the supply chain community use to get their name out there.
So, having been an attendee for your Dallas stop last week, the one main takeaway I took away from that is that marketing is so much more of a sophisticated science and art than I, as a warehouse operator and truck fleet operator, could have ever imagined. And I was able to pick up bits and pieces here and there, but I have a newfound appreciation for the high level sophistication of marketing. So I'm interested to dig into that a little bit more. But first, I want to make a pit stop at, the Kara Brown before she was an author, before she was in college. Like, where did you grow up, and what was your family life like, kind of coming up in the world?
Oh man, all the way back.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, all the way.
I'm from Schaumburg, Illinois. I have 2 incredible parents. They're awesome, still incredible people. They just got back from a 18-day trip to Morocco. They are awesome and still crushing it even in retirement. I went to the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and then all my friends that ended up in law school ended up kind of hating their jobs. So I decided not to go to law school, and I ended up at a kind of an association management company out of college. I was one of a whole bunch of women that they hired out of Big Ten schools to, have them help them manage associations. So my first job out of college, I managed the Wall Covering Association. This is a thing, like wallpaper. The American Ladder Institute, they create literally the requirements for how far apart the rungs on a ladder should be. Like, actually, yeah. And the Association of Steel Distributors. These were my 3 accounts. And so I was kind of early to an agency, but it was a big company. And I was so bad at the accounting of this job, and it wasn't even like accounting. It was like managing the registrations for like annual meetings and things like that. I was so bad at it that they were like, "We think you're awesome. We love your energy. We think you're great, but you need to be away from the numbers. So we're going to move you to the marketing department." And I was like, "Great." So I moved to the marketing group, and that's really where I cut my chops. I learned how to write content. I learned how to edit things. It was really early on in my career. I got to work for some really great people. And then I had loaded trucks in college. This was part of like a summer job that I had. And so Echo Global Logistics was hiring for a marketing person. And I applied for the job and I went in to interview, and they were like, "Well, I clearly knew about marketing because I'd been doing that in my current job." And they said, "What do you know about trucks?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I loaded trucks in college and I routed deliveries for the Expo Home Depot stores." And they were like, "Great, you're hired." And that really started in supply chain. And I got to work for Doug Wagner at Echo. 3 years later, we did an IPO. I got to be a part of that team. My name was on the IPO press release. And the rest is sort of history. It was an awesome way to sort of enter the space in the really like 600 West Chicago, Groupon, Eric Lipkowski, Brad Key Wells, super fun, lots of energy. And I was young and in my 20s, and one of the few women that were kind of doing it and being a part of it. And we had a blast. It was so much fun.
You know, the number of people that come on and talk about how, like, some high school or college job, or their very, very first job out of school, informed and made that humongous influence in the path that their entire career took, unbeknown to them later on, right? That loading trucks sort of thing is what got you into Echo, right? Like, if you hadn't have done that, if you worked at a lemonade stand or as a barista instead, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Probably not. Maybe I would be having thought leadership in the coffee industry. Who knows?
Right, right.
But I'm
But
very
it, but based on that answer, it sounds like you've always felt like you've had an opinion, that you were open with it, that you like to share with people and be out with the crowds. Am I picking up on that?
Yeah, I think I've always been precocious, I think is probably the word that they used for me in fifth grade. No one was surprised when I wanted to go to law school. I think I've always been really, really curious too. I've always really wanted to learn. And even now, actually, I got back from a week at Oxford. I was there with the entrepreneur club I'm in, and I'm headed to MIT next week. So learning and education is super super important to me as a person, and I think I was always kind of precocious and like that even in junior high and high school. And when I learned early on, it's actually in the book, the story of like how I got really curious about how and why marketing, and then the word go to market is kind of new, but this idea that the sales marketing customer success engine is now turned into go to market is exciting for me. When I learned that what I had done at my first job was not going to work at the second job. So what I had done at the association management company, which didn't really make money, like they weren't in the business of making money, they were running associations. I had learned the chops of good marketing expertise and like, technical marketing, but I didn't know anything about turning that into revenue. And when I got to Echo, there's a funny story in the book about one of the executives being like, "What are you doing? And why are you doing it like that? We're all here to make money. Go make some money." Right. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, how do I take the tactics that I learned from this first job and how do I apply it to really driving revenue?" And it took me like 15 years to figure it out. It was not an easy thing. And I don't want anyone thinking that I'm like, spending the first 15 years of my career like really trying to figure this out. It wasn't until later that I was like, oh, if I actually have a point of view on how to do these tactics and turn them into revenue, I can actually have a seat at the table. Like what these guys, they're all men, what these guys really want me to do is show them where the money is, show them where the revenue is. And I think I can have a point of view on that. So that took a while to kind of get there. But once I did, learning it, reading about it, spending a couple of years like studying other people's positions on this got really interesting to me. And then writing the book was kind of a culmination of all of those things coming together and having taking all of the study that I had executed and put together and turning it into my own point of view.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you incubated the idea, and you kind of like you had to kind of experience life a bit in the professional world, it seems like, to really get to the point where you felt like ding, the timer went off and is ready to like pull it out of the oven and go do awesome stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think having the business to incubate those ideas, I often say, and I stole this from Mornay Smith, who is Jack Daly's new like sales guy that he is. So Jack Daly is kind of a sales guru, if you will, and he
Hmm.
has kind of ordained Mornay Smith as the next up and coming sales guru. And I'm obsessed with both of them. And Jack is my actual executive coach, so I'm around him all the time. And they say, my laboratory is bigger than yours. So my clients are running one logistics and supply chain company, right? They're trying one thing at a time on one ideal customer profile or exactly what they're trying to build. I'm doing it at 40.
Hmm.
So I have the privilege of being able to tell you what good or bad looks like because I have 40 companies I'm doing this for, all
Yeah.
in a single space, right? And so I love that I'm able to test things on one client and then pull the best of that into another client. We did We did an index for highway 2 weeks ago that just knocked everybody's socks off. I mean, just incredible results for the highway team. And so being able to take that now to my other clients and say, hey, we've been telling you this strategy works. Look at this incredible math, right? And so it's really cool that we get to do this kind of in a laboratory environment and then share best practices.
And it's a little bit smart for you because while you're kind of running this laboratory experiment, it's a for-profit revenue generating
Yeah,
experiment still. Also, just don't tell the customer that they are the guinea pig a little bit, I guess.
yeah.
Or maybe you
Actually,
do.
sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes um, we were early on. We were early to carrier source. So carrier source is doing single stream intent data, and we're obsessed. I think Rob Light and what he's building is genius. And so we actually have told clients like, hey, it was early on in the carrier source kind of incubation of what Rob is doing, and we're like, hey, this it's a little scotch tapey. Like we really like this product. We like the philosophy behind it. Rob is really smart, and what he's building is great. Do you want to come with us on this journey and like see if we can figure this out together? And some clients are like, yes, let's try out cool new
Yeah.
stuff. And some clients are like, we don't really have like the infrastructure for that, or that feels really hard. And so we're like, okay, cool. That's okay. When
Sure.
it's fully built out, we'll bring it back to you. And so depending on the situation, because we have, 30 or 40 clients at any given time, oftentimes we can try stuff out and we don't ever do it in a vacuum. Like we always ask, of
Yeah.
course. But some clients are really into trying new stuff and
Hmm.
some are like, kind of like, hey, we can't handle it. And so it's way more fun when they're into trying new stuff though, which is great.
Sure. Okay, then that makes a little bit of sense. Is sometimes I use this analogy of like, if you're the service provider, you have clients that are like a Saint Bernard dog and you're taking them on a walk. And sometimes they're the Saint Bernard dog that pulls you along and lets you move faster than what you intended to and try things and have fun. And then sometimes they're the Saint Bernard dog that doesn't want to go on a walk and you're kind of pulling them along, right? So you've got like two ends on the leash. Um,
I think every leader is different, right?
mhm.
We think leaders that are ready to try new things are like favorite type of leader, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
But Nathan, we have a very specific philosophy, like a very specific philosophy. We so specific that we wrote a book on it, right? So we do occasionally run into not usually leaders, they're usually like old school marketers that are kind of like philosophically opposed to our approach.
Hmm.
So our approach is pretty simple. You learned about this in Dallas. It is if your total addressable market is finite. So the opposite of finite would be Coca-Cola, right? Anyone who drinks liquid or smart water, right? Anyone who drinks anything is
Yeah.
your TAM. Like that's huge. That's an infinite TAM. But in freight, your total addressable market is definitely finite. Like there are 19,677 shippers. There's about 9,000 brokers that matter. There's about 5,000 freight forwarders that matter, right? The numbers can be a little squishy, but like there is a finite TAM. We
Hmm.
believe if your total addressable market is finite, that you should own every email address of every human who can buy from you. And this, while it shouldn't be new, it shouldn't feel new to some go to market sort of old school folks. This is going to feel really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, I should build a better website and they'll come to me. That doesn't work. Or I should write a bunch of blog posts and do SEO and they'll come to me. Also doesn't work, right? So, our philosophy is one of an offensive go to market position. So we are trying to get in front of the people that you know should buy from you versus waiting for them to show up.
Yeah.
And that
Yep.
is a kind of a big change for some of the folks that we end up interacting with.
I guess maybe to put myself out there for a second here. I again not a marketing person at all. So I've realized so I have a little freight brokerage business, right? And so and I'm also trying to kind of build a bit of a presence on LinkedIn. And what I'm realizing is that all of my customers are not on LinkedIn. And if all I do is exist in the LinkedIn world and I just like try to plant my yard sign out there and do things to get noticed there, how much of my addressable market am I actually touching through just having that one channel, right? And I'm like, if I'm going to be successful at this, I've got to put more yard signs and other yards and other channels and stuff to go to where my potential customers are, which could be only in person if they're kind of just old school, go shake hands and swap business cards kind of folks, or like there's all these different ways to go out and get it. And whenever you were saying that you need to be able to put your hands around your entire sort of addressable market, all your clients. Yeah, it was a light bulb moment for me, but that's not saying much because I got light bulb moments all
No,
around me
I'm so
all
glad. I
the
mean,
time.
it actually, it's a light bulb moment for so many. There's actually a funny story in the book that I
Uh-huh.
don't name. So I don't name this customer, but I talk about a customer that we walked in and their total addressable market was about 40,000 companies. Like when you
Uh-huh.
did the total addressable market, you kind of figured out it was about 40,000 companies. And they had exactly 2,600 email addresses. They had acquired less than like 6% of their total TAM. So when we came in and we were like, hey, who are we getting in front of? And they were like, well, this is our list. We were like, what is like what? Like this is like your ship's passing in the night, right? The executive from that company that I did not name took a picture of the page and texted it to me and said, thanks for not mentioning the name of the business. It was so funny. So he knew because once we came in, he was enlightened and understood that he needed to go acquire this total addressable market and that his current marketing team just hadn't done it. And there's nothing philosophically wrong with the approach of make sure that everyone gives you their information before you can market to them, or like make sure you build a great website and then make them come to you. There's nothing philosophically wrong with it. It just takes so much longer. Like the velocity of that approach is really, really long versus owning the email address of every human who can buy from you and looking for their primary intent signals, right? If they know who you are, you should be getting in front of them.
I think I just made a parallel concept here. Kind of like if we just think about the whole world of your marketing ecosystem as a trade show, you're basically like download the list of all attendees, right?
Yes.
Don't just have a booth out there thinking people are going to come walk up to you, right? That I had to simplify it for myself. Okay, there we go.
Well, and Jeff told you the story when we were in Dallas together. Jeff told you the story, and I love the story. So we drink our own Kool-Aid, and we use primary intent at Lead Coverage. So we have pretty much every email address of any human who could buy from us inside of our HubSpot. It connects to our website, and we actually have three websites because we have the website for Lead Coverage for the book, and then the Kara Brown website, right? And so there is a human that works for a business that everyone who listens to your podcast would know. So I'll leave it there. He's the CEO of a successful business and he is all over our stuff. He has been to the website at least 12 times in the 14 days before this trade show. He opened all of the emails, he clicked on some stuff, he's been looking at case studies. We know that he knows who we are. So Jeff at the show, instead of just trying to shake every hand at the trade show, knew he needed to find this specific human and validate all the things that he was seeing on our website, right? So Jeff, who's my head of sales, Jeff Courtney, he's amazing. Jeff sees him, sees his name badge, and then stalks him to the Starbucks and like follows him to the Starbucks, gets in line behind him. And the guy's like, oh, nice to meet you. We don't know each other. And Jeff's like, you know us, right? Like, you know who we are. You've been on our website. Clearly didn't say that because he's got a lot of polish. But the fact is we got a phone call with the guy and now we're talking to him. But I think what you and I are both saying is the reduction of the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of Jeff and I going to a trade show with 3,000 people and trying to shake every single hand and figure out exactly who might be buying go to market services in the next 3 to 6 months is futile, right? But understanding the folks who know who we are, who are interested in what we're selling, and who probably have a problem that we can solve, and knowing that before we go to the show and finding those very specific humans is how success is made.
There's a number that you share. I want to say that it's like 95% of the folks that could ever possibly buy from you are actually not in the market or interested in buying at any given time. It's just what's that? Is it or something like that?
Yes. So this is Professor John Dawes. He's in Australia, and he came up with the rule of 95. So he says 95% in a B2B environment, 95% of your buying market is not buying at any given time. So at any given time, only 5% of your market are actively buying at that moment. So instead of trying to hit the entire market at every moment, which is kind of futile, look for the intent signals that show you the 5% that are buying at that given time, right? And now we have these really creepy tools that basically tell us who's interested and when. And so you can really take a look at, hey, I'm going to this trade show. There's 3,000 people here. Oh, here are the 17 people who have been to my website in the last 30 days. Here are the 12 people who've opened emails from me. And you just take this opportunity cost of the 2,900 people who are just not interested in what you're selling today down to like an actual manageable number for any team.
It's amazing. It's using a laser pinpointer to go after and focus that energy rather than a shotgun approach. But I'm curious, do you see value, or like where do you sit on the concept of, do you need to do some shotgun and do some brand messaging and stuff to the general population just to like stay on people's minds and that sort of, or like laser all the time? Like how do you balance that? What are your thoughts?
That's a really good question. The short answer is no. I use my mother-in-law in the book. She is a lovely woman. She's great. She's a wonderful person, and I'm very happy being married to her son. She's not buying TMS. She's not doing it, right? She's not buying truckload. She's not buying LTL. She's not buying, she's not buying a fuel card. Like the short answer is no. Overall, big brand marketing to regular humans that are not involved in the supply chain ecosystem at all is an inappropriate place to spend your money. And so we at Lead Coverage really want to measure every dollar. So, what are the appropriate dollars that should be put in front of the appropriate assets, if you will? So, content assets that get in front of the appropriate people. But spending dollars to get in front of every human or doctors or lawyers or guys that sell insurance, like it's not going to do you any good if you're a freight broker. It's just not.
Okay, question. When you were talking about some of the cost of some of the tools that allow you to do intent data mining and be laser focused, there seems to be like a certain size of budget and company you should be before you're able to like really harness this weapon and put it to good use. Can you like kind of talk about at what sort of revenue level and stuff like a company can start feasibly thinking about the economics of it working out for
Yes.
them?
Yeah, and I love the harnessing of the weapon. I think that's great. I'm going to steal that. So, there are four types of intent data. The first is primary intent data, and it's free. Primary intent data are the human beings, the actual humans that can buy from you that show up to your ecosystem. And I like to make this kind of silly joke, and it's a little silly, but it's kind of not silly, which is if a human shows up to your website, that is a miracle. Like that is five alarm fire, make a phone call, figure out why they showed up. Like no one is going to a freight broker website unless they're a customer to check their shipment to like look around, right? Like very few people are going to be like researching. If they are, they're in a buying cycle and you should get in front of them as fast as humanly possible. So primary intent is free. Anyone can have primary intent. Our favorite tool to collect primary intent is HubSpot. So HubSpot out of the box connects to your domain. And if a record that you have inside of your ecosystem who has interacted with you one time shows up to your domain, you can see that primary intent. This should be actioned on immediately. Secondary intent is what you get from Bombora or ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo bought Clickagy, so it's really Clickagy data. They did that in the late 2000s. Long story short, it's okay data, but it's really like Google clicks, and you are bound by the keywords they give you. It's a limited list, and you can't like make up your own keywords, right? It's not like a Google search, so it's kind of you're limited in your impact. Still kind of fun if you want to dip your toe in the water, but it's not going to give you the kind of impact that tertiary or ABM intent will give you. So third party intent is from the vendors that literally service our industry, right? 6sense is what we believe is the best, mostly because of their direct connection to Gartner. So the 6sense product will sometimes, depending, there's a whole bunch of variants of this, but 6sense they're capable of telling you the individuals that are downloading Gartner Magic Quadrants, yours, someone else's, etc. So this is our favorite. It's also the most expensive, but I do recommend that basically everyone get a demo because I think it's the best tool. In the middle of that market, so demand base is the other one that competes with 6sense. So 6sense and demand base are the top of this intent data pile. In the middle is Terminus, Rollworks. These are kind of two that are interchangeable. We really like them a lot. Rollworks is our preference here. It doesn't really matter. And then at the dip your toe in the water perspective, Sales Intel has a really neat tool that they're rolling out. Propensity has an interesting tool that is relatively inexpensive. But here's two things to remember, Nathan. One, to do true account-based marketing, you need programmatic media buying, which is really specific, but it is not Google and LinkedIn. It is surrounding one human, just one person, with your advertising. And it's relatively expensive to get set up, but once it's set up, it is 6 to 8x less expensive than traditional paid media. So just something to think about. The second piece to really consider when thinking about making an intent data investment is that this really only works for the enterprise market. So if you are going after SMBs, small businesses, folks still using a hammer and chisel, that's just not going to help. Primary intent will. Primary intent is something that every company should have. They should be hyper focused on it. You should be using it. But beyond primary intent, if your target market or your ideal customer profile is small business, the intent tools aren't really meant for small business. They're really meant for enterprise.
Gotcha. Okay. Check, check, and check.
That was a lot.
So there's a question that has kind of occurred to me as I've kind of watched you do what you're doing with the book, and sort of the campaign that you're on, and again, forgive me for this, but did you like invent intent data marketing or something like where do you fit specifically, like Kara Brown, in that ecosystem and the concept of intent marketing? Because for me, you're my first introduction to it, right? So to me, you're like you're the master. But what's the bigger story?
I'm very happy to be the master, and let's tell everyone that listens to your podcast that it was my idea. Just kidding. It's not my idea. The short answer is I find myself in the position to bring the best that the SaaS world is doing to the supply chain market. So the software as a service technology industry has been executing account-based marketing and intent data for 10 or 15 years. This is nothing new for my friends that run, VC-backed startups, or my folks that have been in marketing tech for the last 15 or 20 years. They're looking at me like, wait, you guys are just figuring this out now? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Supply chain is a little bit of a laggard, right? And so we are taking the best of what SaaS has developed and bringing it into the supply chain market. So no, I didn't actually identify or create intent data, but I am for sure. And we made this commitment about 2 years ago. We said, hey, we're going to be the leaders and the thought leaders in intent data for supply chain. This is what we're going to go to market on, and it's been really good for us. And it has just paid back dividends to our clients, like hundreds of millions in revenue based on intent signals, which is incredible. We have some amazing case studies. But I think there is a piece that we have developed on our own, and I'm doing this in conjunction with Rob Light at Carrier Source, and that is single stream intent data. So the idea that ABM, or intent data as a whole, I want you to think of as like the word healthcare, right? Like it's a big word, means a lot of things to a lot of people, right? Doesn't like say a whole lot. That's like account-based marketing. And we buy this little sliver of intent data from these these companies like 6sense and Demandbase that are pulling data for fintech, edtech, martech, manufacturing, whatever. And so we want this little sliver for supply chain. And so Rob Light has created this, a Carrier Source, where we can just get the sliver of what shippers are looking for in the back end of the carriersource.io platform. So this idea of single stream intent, I will take credit for, and it's been really successful for a whole bunch of our clients. And so I think we're at the very, very beginning of what it looks like when the supply chain ecosystem uses the best in class tech that SaaS has already figured out for us, right? It's the same with like the sequencing tools, like the email sequencing tools, right? We were super early to this in 2013, brought it into a couple of our clients when Will and I got started. Will Haraway is my partner. And now everyone's using sequencing, right? So we're at kind of the tip of the spear on intent data and definitely early to single stream intent. And we're bringing it to the supply chain market. And it's really us. We're at the front of this, which is great.
Yes, I like it. And I like that I get to have like a front row seat. Well, and I guess a lot of us that are in your orbit get to have a front row seat to that show. You know, I think that as an entrepreneur, what I kind of can pick up from what you're doing is like that you've found kind of a niche or a thing that you can like just drill down on and just work that and leverage it and deliver that, you know, to the market and everyone identify that with you and you with it, and it's all nice and clean. And I'm kind of curious though, at a more personal level or professional level, you know, there's that whole Simon Sinek thing, and you know, having a why. What's your why? And as I see, like just how much energy you seem to bring to everything that you do, I'm kind of curious, like what your kind of personal or professional why is in all of this.
I'm so grateful for this question. It's such a good one. So my personal why is it has a lot to do with being a woman in business. So this is an American Express number, but the American Express number is that less than 2% of all female founders will break $1 million of revenue top line. It's actually 1.7. So 1.7% of US based female founders will break $1 million top line. So when I learned the statistic in like 2017, I was like, all right, that doesn't sound that hard. Hold my beer. Let's go do that. So we did. The next statistic is that the number of women who break $10 million top line is statistically irrelevant. They literally don't track it. So you can imagine the next goal. We're super, super close to the 10 million number. And there's something about being a woman running a business in a super male dominated space, having a very specific point of view on the market and being accepted sort of at the leadership level as someone who is smart and capable and does have a point of view that we should be talking about. And so I think the why is really leading that way for women, specifically in, heavy industrial industries. Like most women don't wake up thinking, "Oh, I can't wait to go into freight." Like this is my dream. My dream is to be in logistics and supply chain. And so I absolutely adore this entire industry. I think the people that I have met, the leaders that I know, the men that I've been allowed to work for and learn from, has been an incredible experience. And I don't think that I don't think I would be where I am today if I had chosen a different space. And I'm really looking forward to helping other women, not just in freight, but like just in general, once we're sort of on the other side of whatever lead coverage is going to be in 15 years or whatever it is, helping more women break through that 1 million or $10 million ceiling, because it's not easy, but it's possible. And I'd like to see more women do it.
I like it. You know, as you have gone through this journey of building a business, you know, stepping out from being a W 2 employee and now being responsible for the livelihoods of 50 folks, give or take, what lessons have you learned, or what kind of piece of advice do you kind of give to other folks that might be wanting to follow in that entrepreneurial path?
So I was given some really good advice when I got to about $400,000 in revenue. And it was a woman in town here in Atlanta that I got to know, and she's brilliant. And she said to me, right now, at this moment, you have a decision to make. You can continue to be an individual contributor and probably make a really nice living for yourself, a couple hundred grand a year, right? work your own hours, have a couple of clients at a time, do some good work, that would be fine. You can have that life. That's a fine life. Or you can make the decision right now to become a CEO, which is an entirely different skill set. And you need to learn all about finance and accounting and HR and how to hire and debt facilities and banking relationships and enterprise multiples and all of the things that you don't need to know as a marketer. So you can either stay an individual contributor and really hone the craft and make a bunch of money, make a lot less money, but become a CEO and build something of material value that is then exitable in the future. And she said, this is your moment. Like, you have to decide this now. And clearly, I chose the CEO path, but there are so many people, not just women, but people who choose the individual contributor path, and there's nothing wrong with it. And so I think if you are thinking about the path of entrepreneurship, it is that moment of, do I stay an individual contributor and kind of like make a life out of a couple of clients at a time? Or do I really want to become a CEO, which is an entirely different set of skills and pressures, right? It's no longer just like, are my clients happy and am I going to be able to feed my kids? Now it's, are my clients happy and can I feed 50 people's children? And am I making decisions that are good for 50 people? And how do I continue to scale and grow? And what's around the corner? And now we're looking at AI and how do we execute that inside the company? And how do we have a point of view on that? And so I think the difference is energy, effort. And then I think the last thing that I've learned, Nathan, and someone told me this a long time ago, and I wish I could remember who it was. The business can only grow as much as the leader grows themselves. So Kara Brown, in 2017, when I started this thing, look nothing like the Kara Brown that's running this company in 25. Like, I have a very different personality. I deal with problems differently, but it's only because I've been growing as the business grows and going to Oxford and Harvard and Wharton and like spending time on growing my skill set as a leader, I think becomes really important. So that's a decision that I think people need to make. Do I want to stay an individual contributor, or am I really ready to double down and become an actual CEO?
Well, I think that applies and that probably hits home for a lot of people, namely like the person on the other side of the camera. I personally appreciate you sharing that. Maybe one last question here. You've cited a lot of sources and quotes and all that sort of good stuff. I think that you've got a library of these things like kind of on call. What is like the one quote that you kind of like always point to, that's kind of like your go-to? Like if you were going to print it on a shirt that you had to wear every day for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Oh man, perfection is the enemy of progress. Winston Churchill. I mean, there's an error in my book, like a big error. Like, we had to send it back to Forbes and have them fix it. And I didn't sweat it. Number one, no one's told me they found it. I found it and no one else has found it. So that's great. Not actually a scavenger hunt for anyone that's like watching. Don't go looking for it. And you just have to be okay with it. It cannot be perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, right? Like, we printed a book and it's not perfect, or the SOW that I put in front of a customer isn't perfect, or my follow-up isn't perfect. If you wait for perfect, you will never get anything done. And so if I had to wear a t-shirt for the rest of my life, it would definitely be, perfection is the enemy of progress. Just get it done.
Yeah, I like it. I would agree with you. I might almost wear that one too. I'll buy one from you. Hey, Kara, thanks for coming on today and sharing your experience and your expertise in marketing in the logistics and supply chain industry. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. I'm sure we'll bump into each other at a conference coming up sometime soon. And any final words before we part ways here?
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for your time. We are on tour, so feel free to check out the Lead Coverage website for the book tour, the workbook tour that we're on. The workbook is only available if you come to the workshops, or if you ask me for one, I'll send you one. But it's not published yet. So once we're done with all the workshops, we'll publish it to Amazon so people can actually get it in their hands. But we're really excited to be on this tour and throughout the end of the year 2025.
Awesome. All right. Well, have fun and be safe out there on the road. So I'll see you around.
Thanks, Nathan.